Good afternoon, this is World News. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Safe navigation, elimination of the use of force, prevention of the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. These are the main takeaways of an agreement reached by Russia and the United States following discussions concerning ceasefire negotiations in Saudi Arabia. Russia and Ukraine have also committed to implementing a prior agreement between President Trump and President Putin, which prohibits attacks on energy infrastructure in both countries. In addition, the US has agreed to assist Russia in restoring access to global markets for agricultural products and fertilizers, reducing maritime insurance costs and improving access to ports and payment systems for such transactions. And Ukraine Defense Minister Rustem Umerov has confirmed that Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire at sea. He says, however, that Kiev would view movement of Russian vessels beyond the eastern Black Sea as a violation of the agreement and would respond with force. Russian attacks on Ukraine continue to target civilians. The regions of Kherson and Sumy have been hit during a series of overnight bombings, while Ukrainian authorities are continuing to evacuate the city of Kostyantynivka near the Donetsk frontline. In Kherson, several private homes were damaged, but no casualties were reported. Meanwhile, dozens of people were injured in Sumy after an overnight drone attack. Among the injured were 7 children. Closer to the front, civilians are continuing to be evacuated from the city of Kostyantynivka, which has been the target of Russian artillery since the start of this full-scale invasion. The Ukrainian government decreed compulsory evacuation from the area last summer, but thousands still remain in the mostly ruined city. The European Commission will hand down its Preparedness Union strategy on Thursday. This is an outline of how the bloc can prepare for any future crisis. The European Parliament's largest political group, the European People's Party, weighed in on the strategy today, saying they hope it will show how Europe can strengthen its early warning systems, threat analysis, and operational coordination. Now we are joined live by our EU correspondent Angela Skujins from Brussels. Hello, Angela. So what else can you tell us about this strategy? And please tell us, should the weak points be really made public?
Yes, so that is an excellent question, and the EU, the European Commission, seems to be publishing a lot of documents in the last couple of weeks outlining the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of the continent's military preparedness. But this is the Preparedness Union strategy. The European Commissioner, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, announced at the beginning of the year that this document would help prepare the bloc for any upcoming crises. It is expected to be handed down in the middle of the week to mark the 5-year anniversary since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, which exposed glaring holes in how the bloc reacts to a pandemic. We're talking about a lack of PPE as well as critical medicines. So this document that will be published aims to show how the 27 member states can be better prepared for any of those threats. Now, you mentioned it being public. There is a major thrust of these governments working together in harmony across the EU to tackle some of those major challenges. We're talking about cyber threats, supply chain distributions, pandemics, and potential wars. Now, the European People's Party announced today that they were in support of that measure, but we heard from Renew Europe, this is the centrist and right-leaning political group, saying that they would like a guide of this kind to be distributed in every European household. So that goes a little bit of a step further there, but we'll know much more when this document is handed down, expected tomorrow or on Thursday. We'll be reporting on that for you, but that's all from Brussels. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
From Brussels, Angela Skujins. Thank you so much, Angela. Russia continues spending 10% of its GDP on defense. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot said that Russia poses a real threat. Taking note of America's intent to reduce spending in Europe, Barrot asserted that Europe must enhance efforts towards its security.
Its aggressivity over the past 3 years has extended way beyond Ukraine itself, with information manipulation affecting France itself, but most importantly, or more seriously even, European countries like Romania, where a presidential election had to be cancelled due to disinformation campaigns led by Russian actors. The aggressivity of Russia is not theoretical, it's very factual, and many countries in Europe have already experienced the consequences, the very tangible consequences of such aggressivity.
The Turkish court has issued orders for a jailing of 7 journalists, including an AFP photographer. The journalists were detained while covering the largest anti-government protests in the country that the country has seen in over a decade. The protests in Turkey broke out after Istanbul mayor and President Erdogan's main rival, Ekrem İmamoğlu, was arrested on corruption charges. Agence France-Presse photojournalist Yasin Argul has been detained in Turkey along with 6 others journalists, and it's waiting for trial. Reportedly, the court decided to keep the journalists in jail pending trial on charges of violating the Turkish law on demonstrations. According to court documents seen by Reuters, the AFP photographer and his lawyers said during their defense that he was covering the protests as a journalist and requested his release. The journalists were all detained on Monday in dawn raids on their homes. Meanwhile, anti-government protesters indicate they were prepared for a long-term standoff after 6 nights of action and scattered clashes with police. Turkish authorities have detained over 1,400 demonstrators, taking to the streets after the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed during today's cabinet session in Warsaw that asylum applications will not be accepted from individuals who cross Poland's border illegally. The regulation, which is still awaiting the president's signature, aims to curb illegal border crossings, particularly from Belarus, and enhance security for Polish officers.
One of the biggest incentives for organizing smuggling across the eastern border is the possibility after crossing it for an illegal transgressor to immediately apply for asylum. Once they do, they are then considered a registered person and attributed to Poland. I want to address the opposition's concern that Germany or other countries might return migrants to us. The best solution to eliminate this concern and any associated threats is not to register asylum applications. If someone registers and then flees to another country, that country has every right to immediately say, he came here from Poland. These are very practical issues. I don't understand why this signature is not yet in place. Every day, more people may successfully apply for asylum, which only increases the trouble on our hands.
Free media is our connection between the truth, between people in exile and people inside the country, said the Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, celebrating Freedom Day of Belarus on March 25th, a celebration banned by President Lukashenko. The opposition leader asked the EU to support free media in Belarus to fill the vacuum created by US funding cuts.
No, the work of independent media, free media, were always important, for free and democratic Belarus. But in this historic period of time when negotiations might take place, when Lukashenko's regime, together with Russian propaganda, they want to poison minds of Belarusian people. They want to erase everything Belarusian from our country. Free media are of has crucial meaning. And that's why, because of this situation with cut of funding by America, we kindly ask our European partners to save our free media. Free media is our connection between truth, between people in exile and people inside the country. Every day, daily, Belarusian free media covers at least 3 million adults in Belarus, so it's a huge number. if this media, die, they will be replaced by propagandistic media, and we can lose people's minds inside the country.
And with this, we'll conclude this edition of World News, but please stay tuned to TVP World as The Bottom Line with Mary Cato comes up next.